Welcome back, everybody, of the Doc Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. We are celebrating 50 years of hip hop plus. Added the Boogie Down Bronx across the 5 boroughs throughout the tri-state area and around the world. And all year long, we've been celebrating hip hop's 50th anniversary on radio and on the ground, honoring the pioneers that paved the way for a unique sound that defined American culture for the past 50 years, establishing itself right here in the Boogie Down Bronx and beyond. Our next guest, a co-host of the CUNY TV's Hip Hop Subway, the L-Line. Watch out now. It's a 6-part series recounting the hip hop story through the Latino lens, discussing the contributions made by Latino artists in the areas of photography, fashion, emceeing, dance, and graffiti, and activism. Joining us now to share more are CUNY TV's Hip Hop Subway, the L-Line co-host, Elena Romero, and Tuffy Questell. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having
us.
A mouthful, but you have to talk about it. When you talk about hip hop's 50, the roots extend so deep. It's like a wisdom tooth that's, they got to do some work to try to get that out if you want to uncover everything. Hip hop goes way back.
It does.
And, we can say, like you said before, off camera, that we can talk about 50 plus years of hip hop because there are a lot of people who helped kick this off.
Without a doubt. I mean, hip hop was given a name perhaps in 1973, but the roots of it go back to, Latin America, Puerto Rico, Gil Scott Heron, artists of the 50s and 60s, Tito Puente. The rhythm of hip hop began long before the name of hip hop. It was originally called rap music, And the MC was the first real, who was the master of ceremonies, not necessarily rhyming. Not Lovebug Starsky changed that game, but everyone deserves credit along the years. So we can go back and forth, but we understand that certain people had to give it a date and a location. But we know.
And everybody agrees that that's the date and location. But the people, historians, know a little bit more and can add more to it. But It's a beautiful thing that it comes right out of the Boogie Down Bronx. We had celebrations all over the place. Yankee Stadium, right there in the Bronx, the birthplace. They closed off 125th Street at the Apollo Theater. And just all over the 5 boroughs and all over the country, they had something celebrating 50 years of hip hop. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Amen.
And we'll continue to see celebrations all year round. I mean, even though the birthday that we're using is August 11th, it's something that's been celebrated since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Elena, what part do you play? We all play a part in this genre of music, no matter where it started out.
I'm part of Generation X, so this is my generation's music, soundboard, culture, lifestyle. I'm 50 with hip hop. In my case, I didn't dance or rap or do graffiti or MC or DJ, but the role that I played was as a journalist. And so for the past 30 years, I have been documenting the fashion of it all, from its inception to current times. Most recently, I co-curated an exhibition at the museum at FIT called Fresh Fly Fabulous, 50 years of style, that also came with an accompanying book. The second book that I've written on this topic, my first was called Freestyling: How Hip Hop Changed the Fashion Industry, which dropped 10 years ago.
Yeah. And, people, I don't know how many people go back to Bonds and that International Casino. There were clubs associated with this bad boy, too.
Yeah.
Remember the Webo was out? People were dressing with the baggy pants and all that stuff. The MC Hammer stuff before MC Hammer. I'm just saying.
Those were gauchos. Remember gauchos?
Gauchos. They were crawling on the floor and dancing. It was a dance where you like Spider-Man on the floor and, just doing all kinds of Webo dances and stuff.
All of it. Well, and it didn't. And that's funny you say the Webo because that's such a Latin term.
Yeah.
And yet another dance, another style, another part of what we're talking about, the Latino lens. People come up with the conversation where Black started it, Latino started it, Asian started it. It was a melting pot. We all were part of it. We all grew together. We all celebrated its birth. Whoever got in the door first as an artist, it was not necessarily by himself. we all pushed that door open together.
Yeah. And you know what? I was taking a class like years ago. Well, I was doing my bachelor's work. And this person came in with a boom box. We all had to do projects. And I'm just skimming across the top. They came in with the boom box, and it was a Chinese person. And they played the beat. They put it on. Everybody's like whopping their neck to the beat. And then the person started rapping. But the person who started rapping in Chinese. I said, "Oh, shoot!"
Right.
Right then, I realized that this hip hop thing went around the world, because she went back to her country and she came back and said, "Look, this is what we're doing in our country now." Hip hop went around the world at that point, and the clothing and everything that came along with it. So yeah, there were a lot of, in this genre of music, there are a lot of people associated with it from different backgrounds. You know, of course, the Latinos were big in it too. What are some of the other contributions that the Latinos have contributed to it?
Well, I think there's been a misconception, depending on who you ask and what generation, as to the role that Latinos have played. Most recently, Ulysses Terrero did a movie on Amazon Music called Hip Hop Por Siempre, and Tony Touch speaks about Latinos being considered guests in hip hop. For those who are not from the New York area or familiar with that particular story, Latinos have been an integral role in hip hop from the very beginning. Unfortunately, where the spotlight came in terms of the elements were at the MCs, and particularly the ones who got the record deals, that became global, were African Americans. But Latinos have always been a facet in every aspect, whether we had MCs like Prince Whip or Whip, whether we had DJs like Charlie Chase and Disco Wiz, whether we had breakers like Dynamic Rockers or Rocksteady Crew, and graffiti artists like Tats Crew and Lady Pink and Lee Quinones. I mean, the names go on, and not just in all of the elements, right? But also behind the scenes as journalists, as documentarians, as photographers, and activists who speak on behalf of our community.
Yeah, and band members, the people playing instruments. You know, nobody talks about them too much. You know, they have a whole lot to do with it. And go ahead.
Just agreeing. Yes.
Yeah. So, Tuffy, what do you see about this Hip Hop 50? What do you see?
It's a beautiful thing to see. We had the breakfast the other day at Gracie Mansion, and to see so many artists who I've known for the last 50 plus years come out and celebrate and be recognized and be embraced, not only by our mayor, but by hip hop, by the people who are making the waves now and the bags now, as they say. But it's beautiful to see that hip hop has transcended.
Yeah.
A lot of people really counted us out. They thought that, we might get 5 years, we might get 10 years, and the industry will make all this money and we will be done. But the beautiful thing is, our nephews, our grandchildren in hip hop have carried the legacy on. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon, which I'm
I remember it being in the community before it hit radio, because I grew up in Queensbridge. A lot of history came out of Queensbridge, and around the same time, so a lot of the five, and I was the guy going around DJing in a lot of different parks and a lot of different communities throughout the 5 boroughs. So I knew what was happening. A lot of people started copying people's rhymes and coming up with their own rhymes, and people were doing almost the same thing at the same time. But I was in a location where the radio station had called me up. They heard about this kid in the community making a whole lot of noise, so they called me up, and I was up there with my own van. I had the vans that go around, the radio station vans. I had the first one. So I was promoting all these radio stations with my van, but at WBLS, they told me to park my van because this other cat was coming in, and they wanted me and him to crisscross the tri-state area, promoting the radio station and promoting hip hop that we were going to take on. BLS was the first to take on hip hop with Mr. Magic. So it's Dr. Bobley and Mr. Magic rolling through.
Yes, of course.
guys did it. Marley Marl was one of my DJs from Queensbridge. I had a team of DJs. I introduced him to Mr. Magic, and that's how it became Mr. Magic and Marley Marl. But we still went around promoting hip hop on WBLS. So it came out of the streets, hit radio. We were the first to play it, and the rest is history. 50 years of this stuff.
And then we had Daniels and Tuffy and Crazy Sam and Ray co-hosting Video Music Box, which celebrated 40 years on air. Really growing up, watching on commercial television, Barbara Walters doing her thing, but Ralph McDaniels and his crew was equally doing it for us, giving us an inside look into what was happening, the rising stars who would eventually become our superheroes, who would show us that anything was possible, that we could dream as big as we wanted to.
Exactly.
Well said, Elena. Well said. I mean, we definitely never stopped dreaming, and that's the beauty of it. Hip hop is an eternal dream, and grateful that we can do it awake and asleep. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So some of the people that you interview on your shows, talk about that.
We've had we have segments of graffiti. So we have Coast, we have Tony. I'm about to say his name wrong. We had DJs Enough and Tokyo Rose. We talked about DJing. We talked about b-boying. We had King Uprock. We had Fable. We had Rockefeller, who's also a BronxNet icon. And we had some great art. We had Video Music Box, obviously. We had me and Ralph. We talked about everything and everything with everyone, and it was amazing. We had over 30 artists in 6 segments. And Elena and Tina Beth really did it up. I got to say, Bob, you and I, with all these women today, we are very fortunate. All the women who are here today were brilliant, from Birch to Bard, and I'm blessed that you and I are the only guys here to see that is these women, these great feminists, these strong women. I love it. I love it.
Well, it's important that this narrative is told, and it's in its entirety, and that means making sure that all voices is heard. And for Tuffy and I, that meant that we had a couple of objectives, right? We wanted to make sure that we tackled the elements that most people think about when they think of hip hop, but we also wanted to make sure that women were prevalent, as many were instrumental and critical behind the scenes as well as in front of cameras. So among the women that we featured on the show included Kim Osorio, the first editor-in-chief of The Source magazine. We have Raquel Cepeda, who is a journalist and filmmaker and author, Lady Pink, April Walker, the pioneer of hip-hop style with Walkerwear, one of the original OGs. We had a number of people that were instrumental, and not only having Latino voices speak about Latinos' place in history, but also members of the community who are from all different races and ethnicities, who can support and vouch for the community involvement, really from everyone included, especially Latinos.
The hip hop subway, the L-Line. Woo! How'd you guys come up with that name, the L-Line?
That was me. Years ago, I designed a subway line for churches. The F train was for faith, and the G train was for God. And that's always been in my heart. And I actually never released it. So, and the hip hop subway was a reality conversation with Elena and Tina Beth. And it just made sense. And the L line being the Latino line and the Latino lens just fell into it. That's called hip hop grace. That's exactly how that happened.
There you go.
And the connection, right, of subway cars in terms of graffiti and everyone connecting, right, on different train lines. So there was definitely a narrative that spoke to a number of things, being New York City, the MTA transit system, graffiti, and everything. We got to get on a stop wherever we go. We got to ride the subway. So that's the way to take us. That's the gateway, right? So why not use that very same subway card to take us on this journey called hip hop?
So hip hop of yesterday and today. What do you think?
For sure. That's what we talked about. We talked about hip hop, the past, the present, and the future. And the hip hop subway is a never ending ride. We ask you to join us for these 6 segments, but there's so much more than these 6 episodes. There's so much more because hip hop never ends. So the ride continues.
The ride continues. I like that. So wait a minute. You have an episode coming up, a new episode?
Yes, our second episode airs August 25th at 6 p.m. And you can watch us on CUNY TV, both on cable as well as YouTube and our website. So you can watch us live on our TV station.
That's
You
tonight.
missed the first episode, you can catch the repeat broadcast as well as checking it out on YouTube.
Thank you guys so much. Elena Romero and Tuffy Questell, co-host of Hip Hop Subway, the L-Line.
Yes. See you all on the next stop.
Hey, come on again. Clickety, 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 clack. We bring you there. We bring you back. Next stop, the L train.
Woohoo!
I'll see you guys soon, all right?
Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's show. I want to thank you all guests for joining us and you all viewers for tuning in and checking it all out. You can continue the coverage right here on BronxNet TV. All right. For continued coverage. Thank you for letting us share this space and time with you. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee. I've been in for Rhina Valentino. Rhina Valentin, thank you so much. And we'll see you when you come back. All right.